Energized show, up the Irish.
Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, introduce the guest, man.
Well, Basmo, big weeks mean big guests. Today, we've got the Blanchardstown bad boy, Petesy Carroll, and we've got smooth Andy Stevenson. Lads, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm very excited. Andy doesn't look as excited as me. Why isn't he as excited?
Yeah, Andy.
It only just loaded for me now, lads.
It's shocking.
I was getting very afraid there for a second.
I thought he was no selling it, Pete. He was no selling it, he was.
Big time Andy
no idea what
Stevenson
you just
strikes
said.
again.
I love it.
It's obviously a huge week for Irish MMA, but like the thing is, we're going to be talking about what happened over the weekend at UFC 267. Then we're going to be going into this weekend's UFC 268 as Garry makes his debut on UFC and MSG, and then obviously Friday it's Bellator Dublin. It's the return of the big show back to Dublin, lads. We're all here. We're all very excited. Obviously, aren't we?
Oh yeah,
absolutely buzzing.
Can't wait.
Absolutely buzzing. So we have to kick it off from the weekend, right? And we have to start with Khamzat Chimaev's win over the weekend. Ross, what a man, Khamzat.
Man, this was absolutely, I think as Petey described it on the Ringer in May, he would give you nightmares when he picked up Li Jiangling, like carried him across the octagon and started having a conversation with Dana White before completing the takedown, and then began to pummel him, and then eventually sunk in that rear naked choke. It was better than when Khabib was beating Michael Johnson. It really was. It was next level. He was full on. He was more concentrated on the conversation with Dana White than he was beating his opponent. Khamzat is the real deal. Like, if I had my way, I'd actually throw Khamzat in there with Kamaru Usman next. I want to see that fight. Like, that's the one I really want to see next. I don't know about how the boys feel, but I think he will fight maybe a Vicente Luque next first. But Khamzat's the real deal, and no one can dismiss that now.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. I think it's one of the best entries to the UFC I've ever seen, to be honest. Just in how dominant he is, how much of a character he already is. Like, without doing too much. Like, he doesn't do a lot of interviews and stuff, but every time he's on screen, every time he's in an interview, you find yourself even more compelled by him. And as Ross said, I'm terrified of him. Like, that genuine streak of terror he puts in people is a big part of his allure. Like, the way he's fighting people, he's degrading them when they fight. Like, it's not like the other guy had a chance at some stage. He's just destroying them. And these are like after steps up in competition, and you're kind of going, oh, we're going to see something different this time. Like, I'm dying to see him out of the first round in the UFC. But
you were nervous for him this fight as well, Petey, weren't you?
Every time, because they are steps up. And then ahead of this fight, there was the COVID stuff. He'd been out for so long. He didn't seem to be enjoying the limelight the way a lot of people do. I still don't think he's very comfortable with it. But when he gets in there and he fights, he's absolutely magical. You know, I like this Neil Magny fight that they're floating around at the moment. I don't want to see them do Nate dirty on the way out, which the UFC will absolutely try to do. I'm sure there's already conversations happening, but man, he's unbelievable. I just want to watch him all the time. Like, when he came to the UFC, I think I was saying this to Andy at one stage. I was like, just no need to like throw him to the wolves like they did with Leon in that fight that never happened. Like, just let him fight as much as he wants. Like, just keep putting him in there, whether it's middleweight or welterweight, and let's build up this monster. But I mean, they're doing great the way they're doing it too, and I'm really excited about him.
Andy, what about yourself?
He's must-watch TV. Like, when you have a guy that comes in and he just starts calling everyone out, the top-tier competition, like, you can compare him to McGregor in some ways, because in McGregor's rise, like, it was always, you know, I'm coming for the belt, and everyone's saying, well, hang on, mate, you're only coming into the UFC, like, chill out there for a second. And it's kind of the same with Khamzat, where, you know, he's calling for this, he's basically telling everyone and anyone that he's going to smash them, and then he does it every single time, and it's just fucking terrifying. Like, it's you can't not respect him. And to be honest, like, I'm ready to see him against the Neil Magny. I'm ready to see him against a Gilbert Burns or whoever. So it's almost a shame that we might miss out some of his rise, but at the same time, he looks so incredible that he could easily go in and fight for a title, and just, we could be seeing 2 years from now, we could be seeing him a champion already defending the belt and successfully. So it's must watch.
Yeah, I'm living with some of the lads, and I sent them all videos beforehand. I was like, you have to watch this guy. Second Chimaev came on, they've shaved their beards, they've shaved their heads, they're all walking around like
It's that
smashing
lip as
everything.
well. The lip is
It's the
terrifying.
lip as well.
Like, there's
Halloween.
He
something,
looks like a villain. Like,
like-
he looks like a
He's a
genuine
Bond
bad
villain.
guy from a movie. Yeah.
He's a James Bond villain in the making. When he retires, like he'll play the James Bond villain, and like that will be when James Bond dies as well.
Yeah,
It'll be
so
the end
let
of
us
him.
know. Let us know who you think Chimaev should fight next, because whoever he's fighting, we're tuning in. That's one thing's for sure. Lads, another fight we have to look at as well was obviously Islam Makhachev's defeating Dan Hooker as well by submission. Islam Makhachev looks like the real deal, PT.
Yeah, I think he can, the way that the title situation there is at lightweight, a lot depends on what way fights go, right? Because if Poirier beats Oliveira, he's obviously fought Gaethje already. Chandler's situation, he's just fought for the title, so I don't know if that makes sense. Like Islam, I'm happy to see him fight for the title next if that happens. Obviously, if Gaethje wins, they're both managed by Ali. I can see them not wanting to do that, but I mean, he's finally looking like the guy everybody said he was. For years, I was kind of going, what is this? Like, is this guy even that good? Is it just the association with Khabib Nurmagomedov? Like, I remember I went to see UFC 242 Abu Dhabi before it became Fight Island for 2020. It was called Abu Dhabi, yeah. And we went there for 242. And in this makeshift tent, he fought Davi Ramos. And everyone was building him up as, like, basically, he wasn't the co-main event, but he was like the second biggest attraction after Khabib. And I didn't think, he won the fight, but I wasn't impressed with him. And I was kind of saying, I still don't think he is what they say he is. But after what he done to Moises, after what he did to Hooker, there's absolutely undeniable. And it feels inevitable that he's going to be the champion, to be honest. It feels inevitable that he'll have that gold belt wrapped around his waist at some stage.
Big balls on Petesy there talking shit about Abu Dhabi and Fight Island when Abu Dhabi Allen isn't around to defend himself.
Abu Dhabi Allen I think he was amazing this week. If you don't know, Abu Dhabi Allen is a name we coined for this guy who's clearly working for the Abu Dhabi government. He was implanting himself in the UFC press conferences, and he just tries to do sneaky little ways of asking the fighters questions about Abu Dhabi. He was very sneaky all week, I felt. Like, he wasn't as usual, just like, listen, lads, Abu Dhabi's deadly, isn't it? Discuss. That's what it used to be. He was he was technical this time in the build up to the fights. He was asking real fight questions, but straight away after the fight, it just went out the fucking window. Here, listen, lads, Abu Dhabi's fucking class, isn't it? Go ahead, Piotr Jan. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant. Love him.
Andy, who would you like to see Islam take on next? Like, he's obviously best mates with Hasbullah now. Like, people don't really want that smoke, do they?
Oh geez, no one wants that smoke. Look, he's phenomenal. Like, I did a betting show for Sir May beforehand, and I was kind of half joking, being like, oh, here's Islam Makhachev, the second coming of Khabib, and like, I thought he was really good, but now after watching him just like slice through Dan Hooker, I'm like, yeah, no, this is the second coming of Khabib, and maybe even better. I don't really like. I wouldn't mind seeing the Beneil Dariush fight, but at the same time, it's a bit. It doesn't really. I don't know. It doesn't really tickle my bollocks too much, but
he's that late guy as well, though, right? Dariush is with Ali.
Yeah, it probably won't happen. I doubt that would happen. Well,
it would be getting rid of a problem, though, wouldn't it, for the UFC? Because Dariush
but they're all
is
Ali's
problem
guys,
in this
aren't they?
situation.
Yeah, he is. Dariush is someone who doesn't carry much name recognition, but he's one of the top contenders. I actually also think it'll be the Beneil Dariush fight. I think UFC's prize pig at the moment will be, they want Poirier to win the belt, and I'd love to see them come out and do Poirier Gaethje 2. I think that's a money fight that they'd love to do before they insert Islam into that title contention. I also feel like Islam hasn't got to the stage in terms of superstardom where his name carries that Khabib weight, and I don't think he would sell very well on pay-per-view just yet, Islam. I think they need to get him one or two more big spotlight positions. I'm not saying he doesn't have the talent, but in terms of name recognition, I don't think he carries that weight just yet.
Or why not the winner of Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler this weekend?
Yeah, well, I only just think if Gaethje wins and Poirier wins, I think they'd love to run that fight back because you're getting absolute barn burner there.
But will Poirier want to do it? I've already beat the guy. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? And
what's he going to do McGregor for?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, I mean, Jesus, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, it depends whenever McGregor's back.
Oliveira on the other side of it, Chandler, like, they're not going to do that rematch if he wins. It's
in fairness, Islam versus Oliveira would be very sexy, wouldn't it?
I like it. I want to see Islam in against all these guys. I think he's brilliant. Gaethje's fought for the title before. It's just I think Poirier is a lot more savvy than he's ever been now, and I don't think he's just going to keep signing up for fights willy nilly. Like I think he wants to get the belt, and you can even see in the dealings with the Conor fights how it's evolved every time and how much more savvy he's getting. I just don't know if he's going to be like, yeah, let's just fight Gaethje again. You know, like
Who knows? He might call out Nate Diaz for his last fight.
Last fight. I don't think they'll give him a title shot for the last fight in the UFC contract. Though.
But I mean, especially
hope you
after
do deal with
Corey's gone to Abu Dhabi and fought Khabib himself and gotten submitted. Like he's hardly going to want to fight his mate now, who looks every bit as good and like potentially lose a title.
Baz, you get the final say there. Who do you think Islam fights next?
It's the Russian wave is really, really coming. I know this video is going to be like the Irish invasion's coming, but the Russian wave is definitely coming. Islam,
competing with them for a while.
I think Islam and Chimaev are sort of on the same sort of rocket ship at the moment, so they're just like bunching up into more and more. I think these lads are going to be probably fighting on the same night, fighting for a title. Maybe they could do the welterweight title and the lightweight title the same night. Well, okay, no one really has anything else to say, so I'm probably wrong there, lads.
The Abu Dhabi lads would love that, though, wouldn't they?
That sounds
definitely. Baz, you were to have the final say, so like no one's supposed to say anything after.
I know, it's just
I'm just following rules here, lads. Jesus Christ, I'm just trying not to get in trouble.
Try my hardest here, lads, right? Then, lads, obviously we were talking about the Russian invasion. Petr Yan beating Cory Sandhagen by decision. Ross, like this is one of, for the people that don't know, Petr Yan's striking coach is actually from Ireland. He's from Donegal. His name is John Boy. John Boy was very happy over the weekend, Ross, wasn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely was. You know what? I actually think this fight was a lot closer than people give Sandhagen credit for. I know he got a lot of plaudits after the fight, but rounds 1, 2, and 5 were very, very close. Rounds 3 and 4 were definitely for Petr Yan. I'm no way trying to say Cory Sandhagen won the fight. I had it scored 3 rounds to 2 for Petr Yan. That was the way I looked at it. But look, Sandhagen very game on what was it, a month's notice. I know he said he was training for the fight either way, but he probably didn't know which one he was training for. I do just think with Petr Yan, I think he's going to fight TJ Dillashaw next. I don't think we see Aljamain Sterling in there anytime soon. I think he'll ride out this wave of avoiding Petr Yan and hope someone else will beat him. How he will then fight that other person. I don't think anyone wants anything of Petr Yan. He's a stone cold killer.
Aljo's been cleared now, though. As far as we know, he's cleared to fight. I just don't believe in fighters being afraid of anything, to be honest. Like, I know them too well.
I don't think he's actually afraid, PT. I just think he knows how bad a stylistic matchup it is, and he's like, if someone else could chalk off Petr Yan, that might do him a bit better.
Yeah. And then he gets more of them Tinder matches as well, showing the belt off, you know.
Yeah, I think it can't go as bad as it did the first time, because Petr beat him pillar to post, like destroyed him. Like, I mean, he absolutely annihilated him.
PT, I don't think he can do any better than he did the last time.
I don't know though. Like, I think if you look at the first fight, though, I think a lot like Aljo looked terrible in the.
It was wild.
He just looked like he had no gas tank, and it was just a one game plan, and that was it, and it just wasn't working for him. So like, I failed. I can't see how he can do worse than he did in the second or third, fourth rounds of the last fight. So I don't know. I think we will see that fight.
These clown emojis, all this shit. Like, he just
wants, like, what does he do if he doesn't go? Like, who does he fight then? Like, it's the belt or nothing for me.
And yeah, and even if he doesn't, say if it comes to a situation where he can fight, they've said your back is in bits, mate. He can't fight. They strip him of the title. They put the undisputed title on the line for Dillashaw v. Yan, whatever it is. As soon as he comes back, he's in the spot again. Like, and Yan, I think Yan is the best 135 by a long, long way. Like, I don't see Dillashaw giving him trouble. I thought Cory Sandhagen beat TJ Dillashaw. I know MMA maths doesn't work, but I don't see anyone touching Yan for a long time. So it's not like he could just not miss this one and then avoid fighting Petr again. You know what I mean? He's going to be there forever.
Yeah, that is true. Andy, who do you think is next? Is it Aljo or nothing?
I think we'll see Aljo. Like, if he's cleared to fight now, I think we'll see Aljo made again. I think they want to, just put that to bed, because at the end of the day, Petr does still have the interim title. Like, okay, they could strip Aljo if he's not going to fight, but I think the UFC will want to unify those titles fairly quick. If they can't do it, then they'll just strip Aljo and then Petr will be the champion. But yeah, I think that'll be next. And yeah, Petr Yan, another terrifying fighter who just throws his everything into every single shot he throws. It just scares the shit out of me as well.
They need to do a Russian fight. Like they need to do a pay-per-view in Russia where Yan
Yeah.
fights Dillashaw or Aljo at the top of the card. Because there's so many guys here. They need that moment. I know it sounds so silly, but it's huge when international fans see how much these fighters mean to the respective countries. Like we always get with McGregor in Dublin. Even Paddy Hoolan when he headlined, Ashling Daly's walkout, the Zombie. We see it in the Bellator shows. We're going to see it again this Friday night. Like that's a type of thing that all fighters dream of having, like a whole country backing them. And I'd say it'd be absolutely mental if you brought Hamza, Islam, and Petr back to Russia and put on a big card there. It'd be mental.
Absolutely. It was a bit like that time, it's not quite the same, but when they put Stipe in Cleveland, I was like, they should not let him leave Cleveland. They should keep him there forever because he was an absolute hero there. I was like, he's not that
like
charismatic.
WrestleMania or
He's not that
something,
he's not that interesting to have in an interview, but like the Cleveland people, they love him. And if you want to make him a superstar, just keep on having people watch the reaction in Cleveland to him, and everyone else will just believe he's a superstar.
His rap music entrance never really suited him, I always felt. I'm always like, this is the last thing I'd imagine Stipe doing, chilling out to on a Saturday night when they're getting crunk when this comes on. I'd always just looked at it going, like, I know that the fans loved it because your man's from Cleveland as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly.
Okay.
Weird.
Okay.
It's like my dad walking out to the song or something. I was like,
He should have come out to Stone Cold Steve Austin's music, and that's it.
just a fire, like a fireman siren. That's what he should.
Yeah, I love it.
That would be pretty good.
Or even if you put that on before the song, that would actually work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Steve,
would work.
if you're listening, you know what's up.
All right, so lads, the last fight on the card was obviously the main event. Glover Teixeira is the new light heavyweight champion after defeating Jan Blachowicz. Ross, we can get into you now in a sec, but this one's for Andy. Andy, what did you make of the fight? And are you looking forward? What do you want to see after this fight now? Who would you like to see Glover take on next?
I just want to see Glover bask in the glory of his win, to be honest. Like it's one of those ones where you just, I didn't expect this. You don't expect a 42-year-old Glover Teixeira to win the UFC light heavyweight title, which for so long has been dominated, by one of the greatest fighters to ever grace the sport, and John Jones, like just dominating the division. So I thought it was incredible. It was such a feel-good story. Like, how could you not be happy for Glover? Just seems like the most genuinely nice guy ever. The pre-fight they were exchanging gifts to each other. It had a real feel-good, a feel-good story to it. So I thought it was incredible. I thought that Glover just did what he needed to do. Like, his wrestling's really good. He got it to the ground. He hurt Jan. I know Jan said like he left his Polish power in the hotel, but like at the end of the day, Glover hurt him with that left hook, and then from there it was kind of the beginning of the end. So just really, really impressed by Glover's performance. And as far as who's next, Jiří Procházka is the obvious choice, but I don't know if I want to see it. Like, in some ways, yeah, like maybe Glover can go out and beat him, but like Jiří Procházka is kind of terrifying, and if he wins, I see it being a KO, and probably a vicious one at that.
Ross, like you were obviously on Petey's show there. You gave you weren't speaking too kindly of Glover, and then he came out with the win. Ross, what you have to say? Egg in your face, boy.
He heard it. Ross actually
Absolutely.
motivated him.
Heard
It was
it, Ross.
reverse psychology.
It was. Glover always listens to the Ringer MMA with Ariel, Petey, and Chuck. So like he heard me, he reached out to me in the DMs, and he said if I ever say anything like that ever again, he'll put me in a wheelchair. So I do apologize, Glover.
Glover is actually Dillashaw.
Yeah, he is. But look, Glover, unbelievable. And you know what? I actually think against Jiří Procházka, who knows? Like, maybe Yuri's wrestling defense isn't that great, and Glover could take him down and do the same job. Who knows? I wouldn't rule anything out with Glover these days. He's the man. Although on the other side of things, Father Time catches everyone, and I thought it already caught up with him. But what a swan song. I think he should actually probably retire 42 with the belt. Say thanks very much. See you later. But I suppose with the
do that.
yeah, but
just cash out when he's going to cash in.
But I suppose
extended his contract as soon as they put the belt around his waist.
I know, yeah, but they'll have him fight till he's 50 as long as he holds the belt.
Do you know what? Everyone's talking about like Jiří, and you're right. Like, he's wild, man. It's like it's like putting someone in a blender when you're fighting Jiří Procházka. Like, always has been. He's a violent man. But I think Glover's style is the type of style I'd put against his. If I was looking for a guy who could beat someone like Geary, it would be someone like Glover who's methodical, who has a game
Tight
plan.
defense.
He's a great game plan. Like it's always very clear what Glover is trying to do. Maybe apart from like the Gustafsson fight, right, when he's getting uppercutted around Stockholm for about 25 minutes, but you can always tell what he's trying to do. The other guy knows what he's trying to do, but they can't stop it. And if Yuri's going to be throwing wild spinning kicks, all this wild stuff, it's going to give Glover great opportunities to go in and take him down. And I feel like Yuri's always trying to do that wild shit. Like he's ever since back in the Rising days, always trying to make a big statement like that. And I think that would play into Glover's hands.
And Bosmo, pound for pound, best hair in the UFC.
Yuri is the man. Like he is the man. Okay, right, lads. This is obviously, if you are new to the show, make sure to like and subscribe because we're going to get into this weekend's UFC 268. Lads, that was very enjoyable. What you have to give? Who was your star of the event over the weekend? 267.
Hamza, without a doubt.
Hamza for PT. Andy.
Yeah, I'd say Hamza Chimaev as well.
Lads, you're both absolutely terribly wrong. Hasbulla stole the show. He was the main man. Everyone that lick a cloud off him. Everyone got a photo with him. Hasbulla stole the show. It was all about him.
Who's this
fighters,
Abdul lad?
like, meant to be getting pissed off with all the fighters, like just lining up like about 50 like professional fighters. Like this guy's probably like dreamt of having this kind of respect his whole life, and then he's like, "Oh, they're fucking so annoying."
I think I saw a picture with Laron Murphy with Hasbulla, and he looked so unimpressed.
Yeah, I saw Kane Moose's one as well, so they must have been around the same time and just disgusted looking. And the boys,
He was throwing jabs at all of them.
Yeah,
It was brilliant.
I think DC ate one.
DCA.
I'm going to go for Glover, by the way, lads. Just what a story. What a story. Yeah, so as I said, if you are new, make sure to like and subscribe. Right, we're going to get into this weekend's UFC 268 because it's obviously Ireland's own Ian Garry is making his UFC debut at MSG. PT, like you're obviously here from like the rise of Conor, etc., etc. Can you what are the sort of similarities, or what way do you feel now with Ian about to make his debut this weekend compared to Conor making his UFC debut all them years ago?
It's similar in a lot of ways, and it's different in a lot of ways, because obviously the landscape has completely changed because of Conor and what he did. More like when Conor was making his UFC debut, the vast majority of Ireland didn't know what MMA was. They really didn't. I was on the phone trying to convince newspapers to take stories, and they didn't want them. I got one paper to take a story the day before I went to Stockholm, and that was the Mirror. And they had this tiny little 300-word piece, and then in a nod to how big that the debut was, on the Sunday or the Monday, I think after the fight happened, they had me write a double spread, so 2 pages worth of like A Star Is Born in Stockholm. Ian Garry has had a lot more media attention from very, very early on. He's the fan base is mobilized now, so Conor's success has made people aware of the sport, and therefore there's more eyeballs on Ian than ever. And really, when I look at this debut, I feel like it's different to Rhys McKee in the way that we knew that Rhys McKee had a huge handful on his hands with Hamza Chimaev, where Ian's debut feels like the UFC really see a lot of promise in this guy, as they should, because they're rolling out the red carpet here. Like, he's a heavy favorite. Like Jordan Williams, he should be beating Jordan Williams. Like he's in MSG. Like New York is a hub for Irish people. This is one of the biggest venues in the world. I mean,
it's unreal. It's actually unreal. I'm getting all like tingly.
Yeah,
and we haven't got to Bellator Dublin yet. Like,
yeah, so they're gonna roll out the red carpet for him, but this is a different kind of pressure. This isn't like, can he win? He should win. So the pressure now is, can he rise to the occasion of the stage? He hasn't fought in front of fans in a long time. Like, this is a different beast to what he's used to. I expect him to do it after what happened with the Jack Graham fight. I fully expect him to do it. But these are the things that you'd be looking for. Like, I mean, I think he's born for the stage. I think he's born to be in the spotlight. But how will he deal with this? It's a completely new level, and it's very, very exciting for the fan base, of course.
it is. Ross, like obviously, like we had Ian on years ago, just after making his debut. He was 1-0, and like to see the rise.
James made the best cup of tea he's ever had in his life.
Yeah, I hear that's a lie, but who knows? But I mean, Ross, seeing Ian now going in now, it's so surreal, isn't it?
It is in a way. I think because we've talked to him so much, and we interact with him so much. consistently. I think he's one of the few people.
Or
in
we
the
get it,
sport-
lads. There's no in. All right.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it's one of the few
We're getting
people
back
in
to
the
you,
sport.
Petesy, we're getting
Yeah,
back to you,
I
man.
sent him a few DMs too, lads. All right.
No, but it's just one of the few people you consider
proof.
almost
We need
more of a
proof.
friend than someone who like you have on your show, sort of thing, if that makes sense. So as opposed to other fighters, so like you have a vested interest in him, but you also sort of want what's best for him at all times as well. So like you almost overanalyze every aspect of his career. But I think he's made for it. I think he's made for the big stage. One thing I want to ask you, Andy, is what do you think his move to Sanford MMA means, and what do you think someone like Henry Hooft and Greg Jones can add to his game?
Yeah, I mean, look, the move to Sanford MMA was obviously, the entire narrative around it was dramatized, and that was just by proxy of what was going on. You're hearing, one thing from inside the camp, one thing from me inside in the media, and no one knows what to believe, and it was all very just dramatic. When you actually look at the move itself, I think this, as much as I hate to say it, because I think the world of Chris Fields and Team KF, but I think this will be a positive change for Ian, purely based on the fighters that he's going to be surrounded by. Like, he can have the best coaching in the world at Team KF, and he may have had, but it wouldn't be true to say that he had the same level of sparring partners, the same level of training partners on a daily basis. And I just think that as he makes the step up to the UFC, where you're not going to be fighting a Lawrence Tracy, you're not going to be fighting a George McManus. And with the lofty goals that Ian has set for himself, where he's coming out and saying, "I'm going to be bigger than the Conor McGregor. I'm going to surpass all of his achievements." He needs to be surrounded by the best day in, day out, because we all know Ian. We all know Ian's ego, and it's large, and he'll tell you that himself. And he'll tell you that he's got a big ego, and that ego needs to be checked in the training rooms. So if you're going to be competing at the highest level of the UFC, he needs to be losing in the training rooms so that he can win on the big stage. And I do think that I think we'll see a phenomenal performance on Saturday night. I truly do. I think going in against Jordan Williams, this guy's coming off 2 losses in a row. He was submitted by Mickey Gall in his last fight, and I just think Ian is levels above him. I think Ian has all the potential to be a star, or to be fighting in the upper echelon of the UFC, but the UFC need to do this carefully and methodically, and they seem to be doing that so far. Like, by looking at this matchup, I think it's a positive step, and I think that we'll see a fantastic performance from Ian in front of a Madison Square Garden crowd on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think we all want to see a slow build with Ian Garry as well. I think we want to see him, slowly take a step up in competition. I don't think we want to see Ian do a sort of Hamzat style where, within 4 fights, you could be fighting a number 1 contender fight sort of thing. I think, let's build him slowly. Let's see him slowly step up that competition, and let's get him used to getting that big fight feel.
Yeah, let more Irish people get onto the roster as well.
You're this prospect at 170, and that there's a guy called Hamzat Chimaev that's also in the division. That's around the same age. You're like, well, this is going to happen. If everything goes according to plan, this is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, if you look at it, like, Ian's the golden boy, like, as he coined himself there recently with us. He's like almost the next Luke Rockhold. You know what I mean? He's the guy who'd be getting the modeling deals, and he's going to fight the Bond villain Hamzat Chimaev at some stage down the line. You know what I mean? It's going to be
shades of McGregor versus Khabib, and you can compare them. The two matchups as well.
It's frightening, but we could be at least 2 years down the line and say before we get to that stage, but it's a frightening prospect.
That's a question for all of you as well. Who do you think gets a bigger write-up on the newspapers the next day? Will it be, say, if Peter Queally wins the title, or if Ian Garry wins an MSG?
You see, this is in the papers.
Yeah,
Ian's kind of snookered himself because nobody works in the papers on Saturday night. So in terms of actual newspapers, it's definitely going to be Bellator, because you're not going to be able to get the Ian Garry story into your Sunday paper. Is going to hit the Mondays. But I expect it to be huge. The UFC is a bigger deal than the Bellator is. Like, that's for all these sports desks, the UFC is the biggest in the world. But the fact that they're on different days is great, because they're 2 huge moments for the Irish sport. So I reckon the newspapers will be in Dublin, they'll be at the event in the 3 Arena. So I think they have some little bit deal with the Mirror now. So I do expect it to feature heavily. But yeah, I think that's the fun thing for me. Like, who is the person that's going to steal all the talk? Like, I mean, if Gallagher beats Patchy Mix, That's an incredible win. That's a wild win.
Yeah.
Like, that is crazy. If Queally becomes the champion, that is crazy. And then Ian, if he wins in his debut, like, I mean, which story is gonna be most talked about on Monday? You know, that's what I'm more concerned with.
And the thing is, you always know as well. You always know which one was the best, if you know what I mean. Like, I felt like walking out 267, like, Khamzat Chimaev, like, was the person to be talked about. Even though Islam was, like, unreal against Dan Hooker. Glover won the belt, but it was, like, what Khamzat did. And we will know come Sunday which person stole the show.
I think, like the one thing I feel like, if, like, you know, Ian's going to be a huge deal, MSG. I can remember when Gallagher fought in MSG against Yoda Machida, and Ariel was ringing me like, "Oh my god!" After he won, he's like, "This is crazy. This is crazy." Like, the place just exploded, and that's what it's going to be like for Ian as well. But reality, Gallagher and Queally have far more stern tests on their hands, far more. Like they're big underdogs in their fights. Like, if they do that from a sporting point of view, unbelievable. We expect Ian to win. Everyone expects Ian to win. So it's a different story.
I can't believe there's only 2 people on the roster now from Ireland. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. But, like, I mean, the way, like, it's a hotbed here in Ireland now, and everyone's just, like, training, and the events are going great. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? But with Ian winning, he can inspire another generation as well. So it's just long may it continue. Is there anything else to say about the Ian Garry fight as well, or what you expect can happen after? Any predictions? Like, I mean, like, will we get a Paddy the Baddy moment? You know what I mean? Will we get a Chimaev moment? Will we get
Paddy the Baddy's going to be there.
We'll be there, yeah.
He's going to be in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be there for Barstool Sports, so, like, it's going to be incredible. But no, I hope he does get the finish as well, and I hope he does get that big moment where he gets to, you know, get the finish, get his spiel on the mic, and it'll be crazy from him. Is Joe Rogan doing UFC 268?
I don't know, because of this.
No idea.
Do you know the way there's
he's probably doing the day before with Chappelle somewhere. Then he'll probably do that. And
but isn't there some kind of COVID situation with Madison Square Garden? And Joe wasn't vaccinated. I don't think. I know he has antibodies because he had it, but I don't know how that works.
Oh God, who knows? But I love Joe Rogan was there just for him, because I think that would be another sort of chink in the armor from.
Another thing as well, lads, will Ian be at the press conference as well on Thursday?
Doubt it.
I would doubt that.
Okay.
Because I think the thing is we have to remember is that, like, Ian is massive on the Irish scene, but, like, he hasn't transcended yet to the US side.
Yeah, put it this way, Paddy Pimblett wasn't at the press conference for his fight, so I would very much argue he was a bigger deal going into his debut than he is going into his.
I'm mostly biased. I'm wearing the Ireland jersey. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's one of the most biased Irish show you'll ever meet. Right, lads. Then, obviously, in the main event, we'll get into it. Kamaru Usman, the champ, is taking on Colby Covington again for the second time. Andy, what do you expect from this fight after the first fight was just, like, unmissable?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting another great fight. Like, say what you want about Colby Covington, he's an incredible fighter, and he's given Kamaru Usman his toughest test to date, in my opinion. It doesn't really sit well with me that Colby's just back in fighting for a title when so many others, like, if you look at different divisions, if you look at Leon Edwards in his own division, if you look at everywhere in the UFC, usually if you sit out and just say, no, I'm going to sit down on my spot and I want a title shot, that doesn't sit well with the UFC. But for some reason, here we are, Colby Covington fighting again after beating, to put it bluntly, a washed Tyron Woodley. Albeit he had a great performance against him, stopped him in the 4th round. But look, I think it's going to be a great fight. Kamaru Usman has improved so much in the striking realm in the last number of years, and the work he's been doing, I just think that he's getting better and better. Like, I know we've seen him, there was that kind of rocky moment against Gilbert Burns where he got rocked for a second, but ultimately every single time he pulls through the adversity and it gets the win. And I see Usman getting another finish this time around, probably a late one.
I think it's a brilliant fight. It was one of the best fights I've ever seen the first time they fought. And I love, like, as expected, Colby has a great version of events that he can relay us with about how the fight went. I don't know if you saw the counter joke. It's actually genius. Like, it is.
Yeah, he is,
like,
he is.
All these little stoppages, and you're going, like, you know, it's hard to take anything away from Usman, but he's making it interesting, you know. But, like,
he sells it well.
Yeah, I don't.
Did he ever go with Mark Goddard again, or I haven't seen it?
Didn't have a go at Mark Goddard. He probably had to edit that out of the old kind of countdown interview. But he was kind of saying, look, he stopped it here for an eye poke was ridiculous. He stopped it here for a liver kick because Usman said it went low. All this kind of stuff. But like the reality is the personalities of these guys obscure the reality of that fight. It was amazing. It was an amazing back and forth fight. Colby
I even think he said he was winning the 5th round, Petesy, as well.
Yeah, fair play to him. But it's like Colby. I get. Look, I've been one of the loudest guys in terms of Leon Edwards and calling for his title shot. But Colby is an elite fighter. He's one of the best fighters in the UFC. I don't agree with most of the things he says, but he's an incredible fighter. And the reason they're doing this is because he's so polarizing. It's not because he's got a huge fan base. It's because people want to watch him getting his head kicked in for the most part. You know, and look,
True.
There's a lot of interesting things that happen if he wins this fight. Like Masvidal and Leon takes on a completely different energy then, because it's then Masvidal potentially fighting Colby. You know, I think it's a great fight to make, and it makes sense for a big event like MSG.
I love it. I think it's one of the most polarizing rivalries since Daniel Cormier versus John Jones, and I feel like it's got that vibe in between it. I feel like there's a bit of vitriol in between the two of them. One thing I always found about Colby Covington, and I think it's always sort of left out when they talk about his career and his opponents, he's been very good at almost like hand selecting his opponents in certain aspects, and the guys he's always fought have been on the downturn of their career. You know, Robbie Lawler, RDA, Tyrone Woodley, Damian Maia, like all these guys, when he fought them, were on the downturn of their career, but they're such good names to have on your resume. And the one time he was fighting someone on the rise was when he went in for the world title fight against Kamaru Usman, and it didn't go his way. Look, I had a score 2-2 going into the last round. I thought it was one of the best fights I've seen in a very long time, as you alluded to, Petesy. But I just think with this new wrinkle in Kamaru's game, with Trevor Whitman in his corner, and the way he's tweaked those final few things, and the way he knocked out Jorge Masvidal, I have no doubt Kamaru Usman's going to leave with the belt. I think he is the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet at the moment. And they don't call him the Nigerian Nightmare for a reason. And when he gets down the line and fights Hazmat Chimaev, sign me up, take all the money out of my wallet. You can have it.
Ross is just completely, he's disregarded the top 10 welterweights and just said, listen, we know what's happening.
Fuck Leon Edwards.
You bet the 11th ranked welterweight in the world. Let's get the title fight going. Fuck Leon.
But like, if you look at it there, the way Chimaev went out and just like demolished Ling Jiang, and the way like Edwards won the whole 24 minutes of the fight, and then the last minute, like everyone forgets about the last 24 minutes. It's just everyone wants to see the wrecking train just collide, you know?
Yeah, but like it will be stylistic wise, it'd be absolutely incredible. I mean, I want to say it, but let's have Kazma fight someone else first and give Leon that title shot first, because Jesus Christ, he deserves it.
Yeah, stick the brakes in that train, lads. In the co-main event, Rose Namajunas is taking on Weili Zhang again. Rose obviously won last time by a head kick. PT, like, are you excited to see this rematch?
Yeah, I love watching Rose Namajunas and I love watching Zhang. So love the fight. I will say that I think that in hindsight, Zhang has been changed from the Joanna fight. Like, that's something we all talked about after this. Like this kind of war, you don't go through a fight like that and come out, you know, without having some kind of damage. And the way she went out against Rose, then you're kind of going, right, well, that's a lot more damage again. And now she's doing the immediate rematch again. And Rose is after putting on size. She's a beautiful boxer. I'd really be shocked if this went any other way than a Rose win, you know?
Andy?
I just think that the time frame as well, like, it's only 7 months since they last fought. It's not like she's gone away and trained a lot and taken some time off and, you know,
slept in a hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, exactly. Or done whatever she needs to do to turn things around. Like, and okay, albeit it was a little over a minute when Rose landed that head kick and put her out. So we didn't see a whole lot, but I mean, what we did see, Rose just looked phenomenal. And Rose has been phenomenal since the last 5 years or so. Like, I know when she lost her title, she was smashing Jessica Andrade up until that slam and got knocked out. So I would be surprised if Rose didn't win here. But I am excited to see it. I hope it goes a bit longer because, I mean, as PT was talking about there, that Yoni and Jacek fight that Zhang Weili had was absolutely incredible. I hope for the sake of their brains that it's not a similar fight for Rose and Zhang, but I would like to see it go a little bit longer this time.
Okay. Last time I actually thought Weili Zhang would win, but then Rose won, so I'm going to stick with Rose this time. Ross, one more fight we're going to look at before we move on to Bellator Dublin. And thanks, Mel, for everyone who stayed on the show so far. Ross, Justin Gaethje is taking on Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler actively training with Ian Garry in the build to this fight as well. Like, does this have fight night written all over?
I think it's more of a round of the year than a fight of the night. I think every time Justin Gaethje fights, you know what I mean, the first 7 or 8 minutes are always absolutely insane, and I think we'll see that again. I think Michael Chandler is going to be slightly foolish here and try and fight fire with fire, and I think Justin Gaethje is going to eventually put him to sleep. I'm not as convinced Michael Chandler's chin is as good as it used to be. I think ever since the Pitbull knockout, I think it's been a bit skeptical, and we saw him get touched up against Charles Oliveira. So I think Gaethje's going to win by knockout, and I think Gaethje's got that bit smarter as well.
PC, what are you thinking there, bud?
I don't really know. I think Chandler's really good. You know, I think he fought a brilliant fight against Oliveira, and Oliveira's, you know, one of the best in the world. Obviously, a huge statement to do that to Hooker. Like, all fairness, right? Islam Makhachev submitting Dan Hooker is not as impressive as Michael Chandler knocking out Dan Hooker, in my opinion, because Dan Hooker's a striker. He was on a good run at that stage. He had a full camp to prepare for this guy. So I thought that was unbelievable. And then he goes in against Oliveira, a guy who's been like completely destroyed Tony Ferguson, right? Like, just absolutely annihilated him. It wasn't even a contest, and he gives him the first round of that fight was absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, I think it's a tough fight for Gaethje. Obviously his leg kicks are unbelievable. I love watching him fight. Who doesn't love watching this guy fight? But
him versus Mason Jones, book it.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Yeah, I love that. But I don't know. I really don't know. I'm really interested to see it, and I'm interested to see how it plays against the title fight. I don't really have a prediction though right now. I'm not really leaning one way or the other when I think about the fight.
I love a good fence sitter.
Yeah, I just don't have one in the top of my head. Like, I could say something, but it would be utter bullshit.
Yeah. And I'm going to copy PT, to be honest, because I have no idea how this is going to play out. Like, I think we all know how it's going to play out, in the sense that it's just going to be chaos, and they're going to beat the shit out of each other for however long it goes, and it's probably not going to go the distance. But it's just really, really difficult to say, okay, you know, fighter A versus fighter B, who's going to win? I don't really know. Someone's going to get knocked out. Don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be fucking amazing for as long as it lasts. And like, that's not a technical breakdown or anything, but most people who watch the sport can predict how this fight is generally going to play out, I think. But I don't think many will know who is going to win.
This better not be the lightweight version of Ngannou versus Lewis, I'll tell you that.
It won't be. But it is like, Gaethje is that guy. Like, Chuck Mendenhall talks about this a lot, where it's just a guy you love to watch. You don't even care if he wins or loses, because you know he is just gonna go out there and put caution to the wind. And I know he's cleaned up his game a lot, but that is in essence what we're also excited about Gaethje for. Like, he's gonna go out on his shield no matter what. And we know what he's going to do, and we can't wait to see it. That's the whole allure of the guy. Yeah, and to be fair to Michael Chandler as well, his last 3 wins have all been first round knockout. So it's not like he's anything dissimilar to Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, no decision merchants here, Basmo.
No, I'm gonna go for Gaethje in this one as well. I just think that, like,
yeah, because Energized don't sit on the fence, Basmo. That's why.
Lads, before we get to Bellator Dublin, I'm just going to ask you each, what other fight are you looking forward to seeing on this card? Ross, we're going to start with yourself, bud.
Oh, Jesus, I wasn't even ready for you to come to me. Do you have the card in front of you there?
Yeah.
This sounds very unprofessional.
I'll give you one. Alex Pereira's fighting.
Yes. The last man to be Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, he's taking on
that's
Andreas
intriguing to me.
Michailidis. Okay. Pete, what about yourself?
Ali Aquinta and Bobby Green. I think it's a great
Jeez,
fight. Love watching.
They could try and rob the thunder of the lads, couldn't they?
Well,
for the fight of the night.
Ali Aquinta, I feel like, is so underloved. Like, I mean, I think he's brilliant. I love to watch him fight. And Bobby Green's story is absolutely amazing. So I think that's guaranteed to be a brilliant fight. Probably will go the distance, but it'll be very entertaining.
Baz, I'm going to go for our mate from New York, the man who photobombed nearly all our photos over there, Jean Vellante. What an absolute legend of a man, one way or the other. He's just a nice guy, and he's
People look forward to
UFC's
Jean Vallante's heavyweight fights. That is unbelievable to me.
and well, just more. He's the UFC's answer to Rob Gronkowski. So like, let them have it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Casey, that's a reference for you, but on the NFL hype train.
Yeah, Gronkowski injured at the moment. What? Buccaneers losing matches and everything with him.
Yeah. What about that number 12 guy? Eh?
Never heard of him.
Yeah, never heard. One person I'm looking forward to seeing is actually Shane Burgos. He's taking on Billy Quarantillo, and then Frankie Edgar is taking on Marlon Vera as well this Saturday. Lads, for the people that are tuning in right now, thanks a million for following along. We're moving into Bellator Dublin now. Right, lads, obviously this Friday, it's all going down. All four of us are going to the event, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to sit together and hold hands.
Yeah, he's all going to
except we're not allowed. Sorry, via COVID.
Media days on Wednesday. The weigh-ins then are on Thursday, and the event's on Friday. So we actually cannot wait. Bellator Dublin is live from the Tree Arena this Friday, November 5th. Make sure to like if you're going. Make sure to leave a comment down below. How many selfies you're going to get with the lads, and Okay, right. We're going to kick it off at the very, very top. Peter Quealy's taking on Patricky Pitbull for the second time for the lightweight world title. Petesy, when you saw this fight was announced, like, what did you think?
Now, what did I think of when the fight was announced, or when they made it a title fight?
When they made it a title fight, like, how excited were you for like another for an
Oh, huge! Like, I was so happy. Like, it adds a complete new layer of prestige to the card. Quealy's a guy I've been watching for years, and he's a guy that he always felt like he was going to be in a moment like this, but then he'd hit some stumbling blocks. Like, remember the Joe McColgan fight at Bama? People, like, he was so in kind of ingrained in McGregor's camp at the time. People were like, if he wins this, he's going. McColgan 1-0 at the time. We all know he was a lot better than 1-0, which he's gone on to prove subsequently in his career. But that was just a killer for him. And yeah, I mean, that last fight against Patricky was unbelievable. The cut stopping the fight. There's genuine bad blood there. And look, this would be a huge moment for him. One of the best moments. You know, like, think about Conor winning a world title. Like, this is huge. This is a huge deal if Peter Quealy pulls this off. I know there's other lightweights in the division that are unhappy about it, Brent Primus, guys like that. But look, Quealy did great against Patricky last time. Patricky was on an unbelievable run up until that fight. And I would love to see him as the champion of Bellator, and no one can say that he's getting a softball with Patricky because he's a beast.
I don't really understand how other fighters can be pissed off about this, if I'm honest. Like, he beat the number one guy, the champion vacated the title. What do you want him to do? Like, he's beaten the number one guy. Does that not mean he's worthy of facing him for the title when he's just beaten him? I think
that's what Primus is upset about. He's like, Patricky's just lost, and now he's fighting for the title because he's Patricio's brother. You know, that's
so it's not the grievance with Peter Quealy. It's more the grievance with that Patricky's fighting for the belt.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Andy. No, I don't think you should, Andy. Because yeah, you're right. Tell her how it is here. Bring that energy. Yeah, because I agree with you, Andy. Because at the end of the day, that fight was stopped by a cut as well, so it was a bit controversial how the fight ended. I'm delighted they're running it back. I'm delighted they're running it back in Dublin. I'm delighted for the belt. And one thing I think,
Quealy, doesn't it? Like, when he's covered in blood, you're like, that looks great, man.
Like, he only gets going when he sees a bit of blood, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, geez, he looks great in blood.
Like,
5 rounds suits better.
I think it suits Quealy.
Right? Let me just set the scene, right? It'll be around 11:30, I'd say, will it be? Then, like, McGregor will be going around the whole arena, like, giving everyone a shot to proper 12. Quealy wins the title, and then, like, there's just everyone gets a shot of proper 12. The whole arena goes bleeding nuts. That's what's going to happen. And that entrance as well is just the most famous entrance, one of the most famous entrances in the European Bellator history. Yeah,
robbed it off Ash Daly, like, but fair enough.
This Friday, sorry, excuse me, is like I haven't been.
I won't forget Ash. I won't forget.
In fairness, we love Ash Daly. Like, you know what I mean? He might have robbed it off her, but he immortalized it. You know what I mean? Now in the new age of...
She might immortalize it in UFC Dublin.
Oh, no. I think in the new wave of social media now, I think Peter Quealy has overtaken Ash Daly in that right to be the zombie guy. But also...
The zombie girl. There we go.
Yeah. True. 1A and 1B, as the guys would like to say. But also, one thing that's great is for our sport, MMA, it's going to be the first like big show that's on in Dublin on an indoor arena. So that's pretty cool to say as well since COVID. So you up the MMA.
I actually haven't been to an event in so long. This is like, I'm actually nervous for Friday because I know once that zombie hits, like, geez, the whole arena, get the phones out.
Yeah, the masks
that's
will be
why
gone.
I nearly hope that Conor doesn't come, because what happens when Conor shows up at Bellator events, the media stop watching the fights. They all get out our phones and just start recording Conor. The whole crowd are just looking at Conor, and then you're like, "This is the world title fight on me."
But those retweets, Petesy, those retweets.
You need them, man. It's the currency.
But like if Conor's there as well, it'll make it even more of a global thing. And then if for Petr to win the title, that would just be it'd be a great story. And then also Sinead having a fight for the title the week after. I can't wait to see what sort of show Bellator puts on, who they bring over, who's going to be there. It's going to be really, really exciting. And I can't wait to go to the media day this Wednesday. The lads are going as well. So as I said, make sure to follow them both on Twitter, Andy and Petesy, and you get all the behind.
I'm not going to be there. Just full disclosure.
I'm actually also not going to be there.
Okay, don't follow them right now. Don't follow them right now. I'm telling you.
But I've got plenty coming to the Severe MMA YouTube channel.
Okay, here we go. In the co-main event, lads, James Gallagher's taking on Patchy Mix as well. James 11-1, Patchy Mix is 14-1. Ross, we start yourself. James Gallagher, since he's went over to Kansas Glory, he seems like a new man.
Yeah, he seems to have matured a lot. I think physically as well, he's grown into his body a lot more, which is good to see. Look, I think linking up with James Krause over there can only be a good thing. James Krause is an absolute guru of MMA. I think he's a fantastic head coach, and I think it's a great move for James. One thing I did see, I don't know, maybe the lads might be able to confirm, I saw James tweet out something about 140 pounds. Is this going to be a catchweight fight, lads?
I don't think so. I'd say that's just a bit of just hyping it up a little bit, but
bit of gamesmanship.
I don't believe so. I reached out to Bellator and they didn't get back to me, so maybe it is, but it wouldn't be. To be fair, stranger things have happened. You know, we saw Peter Queally and Ryan Scope kind of agreeing on fight week just to not cut weight and do a catch weight. So you never know. But I would say this is probably going to be a title eliminator fight if you look at the division. So I'd be very surprised if this wasn't at 135 pounds or 136 pounds rather.
Peasy, how excited are you for this fight? What do you think James Krause will bring to James Gallagher's game?
I think Krause is unbelievable. I think he's one of the best coaches in the world. And look, he's just freshening it up, I guess. I mean, I think he just look, he's been living in Dublin basically since he's 15 years of age. I just think he needed to spread his wings, get over there. I've only talked to him a little bit. I haven't been able to really pick his brain on it, but he seems really happy. Like, I mean, I always say this about James. Imagine being as famous as he was that young. Like, everything you do. And it wasn't like I think people are coming around to him. He has a lot more fans than he did at the start. But at the beginning, it was just people giving him shit all the time. And
yeah,
I always saw him as a brilliant fighter. And I didn't understand why people weren't getting behind him. I feel like that is happening. I think the Bellator European Series actually implanted him as like, this is a main event fighter in Ireland. So I think that helped him a lot. But yeah, I think it's a good move for him just to freshen it up. Get some new bodies there. You know, just have the freedom that he'd have in the US that maybe he didn't have in Ireland as much. But the fight is unbelievable. I think, you know, Patchy Mix is rightfully the bookie's favorite. He's fought he's fought similar level of guys, but he has big win over like Ricky Bandejas. If you haven't seen that fight, it's absolutely unbelievable. How quickly he latched up Ricky Bandejas' neck in that fight is crazy. I can remember being blown away when I saw it that night. You know, he is one of these young kids that came up under Jackson Wink, I believe. So I mean, he's had a killer's row in his training room ever since he started in MMA. I think this would be a massive win, like the biggest by a long stretch of James Gallagher's career. But what I will say is their strength areas are both in each other's wheelhouse. Like, they're both submission savvy guys. And James Gallagher, I mean, when he was like 15. There was just this talk of this phenom, like even in jiu-jitsu scene, never mind MMA. Like, from at that time, he was focused on just jiu-jitsu, and people were like, this guy's incredible. I've never seen anything like this so young. And he's proven how good he is on the ground in his Bellator run. But that for me is a big thing. If this gets into a scrambling, a submission kind of battle on the ground, it's anyone's. Like, they're both brilliant. So I wouldn't be surprised if James won it that way. But I do understand why Patchy Mix is the favorite. And honestly, it's one of the biggest wins Irish MMA would have in a long time. Either Queally over Patricky or James over Patchy Mix. And I think it's big for, I know even though James isn't in SBG anymore, either of those wins are huge for SBG because there's all these conversations. We saw it with Johnny Walker's performance a few weeks ago. Oh, John Kavanagh can't do it. Either one of these wins, I think, will be huge for SBG, even though James is with Krause now.
Oh, yeah. Andy, what you make of the evolution of James since he's moved abroad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think it's kind of too early to say what the evolution is just yet. Like, we haven't seen him fight since he's moved to Glory, so I think the proof will be in the pudding there. And I think that I think it can only benefit. It's the same with Ian Garry. Like, I think it can only benefit fighters by spreading their wings and training somewhere new, and especially in a gym like Glory, where James Krause has proven himself to be an elite level coach over the last number of years in the UFC. I think that we'll probably see. I would hope anyway that we would see James's game kind of evolving into a more well-rounded game. Like, we all know he's this slick grappler, but the question marks. It's hard to say because most of James's fights play out on the ground because he gets the takedown and then he goes to work. Whereas the one loss that we've seen was this big emphatic knockout where he was switching music, after already getting hurt. So, like, it's really hard to say what James is striking is like, because like if you talk to his training partners and his teammates, they say, oh yeah, he's great, but then we just haven't actually been able to see that in his actual fight. So I would hope that his game is a bit more well-rounded than what we've seen in fights to date, and I think it will be. And I'm really just intrigued, as Petesy said, like these are two high-level grapplers, and I'm really, really intrigued to see how the fight plays out. Like, I want it to go to the ground. I want to see how they get on. I spoke to both Pedro Carvalho and Jesus, I'm blanking on his name now. This is terrible.
Obviously, just that's terrible, Andy. I can't believe
that's terrible. Anyway,
one of the Italian lads.
Yeah. No, hang on. No, give me a second, lads. I need to get
Is
this.
it Pedro's opponent?
Kieran Clark. Got it.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Kieran.
Clarky.
But they both said the exact same thing. Like, they said, it's when you get in with James, like, everyone discounts James until they're in there with him, and when they feel his grappling, and he's so much stronger and technically gifted than you think. Like, he looks like, James doesn't look like, he's not this big muscular guy like you said at the start there, Ross. Like, he looks like he's starting to grow into his body, and that's the way I've always kind of felt about him. It's as if like he hasn't hit that growth spurt yet where you get like your man strength, but he doesn't really need that, it seems, because when he grabs hold of lads, he's so clinical and technical that he's able to just go to work and do what he needs to do to get the finish. So very interested to see this fight.
Yeah, I do think one thing that we've always said with James is that everyone knows what he's going to try and do to you when he gets in there, and very few, in fact, only one person's been able to stop it. So at the end of the day, like, he is a bit of an enigma that way. No one's been able to out-grapple him, and this time he's facing the best grappler he's fought since he started his professional career. So that does add to the intrigue.
I think the Bandejas fight, the thing that's missed about that an awful lot when people talk about it is that was like the first time we didn't see James use the game plan that does everything for him. He'd been training specifically with a boxing coach for a long time in the lead up to that fight. And every time I was talking to him in the lead up to that fight, we knew it was a big fight. Bandejas, UFC were trying to sign him at the same time as Bellator were trying to sign him because he was a CFFC champion, which is like where Felder came from. I think Eddie Alvarez fought for them before. No, probably not actually. But anyway, all the Philly guys, Sean Brady, these dudes. And he knew he was a striker, but I think James kind of saw it as like, I'm going to silence all these people who say I can't strike. And he was working so exclusively with boxing. If you go and watch that fight, he's coming out trying to strike, which is never what James does.
Yeah,
James
throwing lots of hands.
Puts a guy against the fence and takes him down and submits them. Like, and I just think that was just a more of a game plan issue than, oh, James isn't a good striker. Like, Bandejas is an outrageous striker. He knocked out Franz Malambo as well. Like, Malambo is unbelievable, unbelievable striker. He was giving Conor McGregor the best rounds in 2015 before he fought Mendes, like Franz, who was the world champion amateur at the time. So I don't think the thing that pissed me off with the Bandejas situation is, why did Bellator get rid of him?
I have no idea. Terrible idea.
He's a great fighter. He was a really great fighter. And you have this revenge plot there for Gallagher. Gallagher is he's one of the big names in Bellator. He's selling out shows. They don't do that in London. They don't do that in Birmingham. They don't do that in Newcastle. They do it in Ireland because of James. So I just never really understood that. So that's one thing I think about the Bandejas fight. Like, how different would it have been if we had seen him go out and try to impose his usual plan A against Bandejas?
Right, Bats, now steer that ship there.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll ever find out. But also,
Talking some shit tonight, haven't I, boys? Sorry.
no, it's
Every
good.
time I
That's
talk, I say something, I just stop and you're all just like,
Oh, that pizza
that's what you're here for.
shut up.
Also, Ireland's on Kieran Clark, Danny Neal, and Dara Kelly, and Stephen Costello are fun on the card as well. Before we wrap things up, lads, what is there any fight you are in particularly looking forward to from Bellator this Friday, bar the main and co-main event? Ross, you first.
Oh, Andy, no, go on. Look, you're joined to jump in there. Go on, Andy.
After you, Ross.
No,
Andy,
Andy, guess first.
No, I'm very interested to see how Pedro Carvalho rebounds. To be honest, like this is a guy who came over 5-3 in his MMA career, moved to Ireland, won a Cage Legacy title, had this amazing run, got to the Bellator lightweight title shot, and then he gets knocked out, and then back to back he gets knocked out then again by JJ Wilson. Like this is a massive moment for him. I spoke to him earlier today, and he told me basically.
Where can we catch that now, Andy?
On severemma.com. But he spoke to me earlier on, and he basically told me that it was the worst year of his life last year, and that how he's really struggled with the losses, and how he's really struggled with that whole time following on from the Patricio Pitbull fight and then on to the JJ Wilson loss. So I'm very impressed with the way he. On one hand, I'm very impressed, and another way, I'm very afraid of his approach, because this guy just takes on all comers, and he's constantly putting himself, out of the frying pan into the fire type situation where you have to get knocked out in the first round by Patricio Pitbull, and then you're taking on an undefeated up and coming prospect, and then now he's taking on a lad who's a 53 fight veteran in former title challenger Daniel Weichel. So this is a huge fight for him, and it's really it's kind of make or break at this point, because he loses this, it's 3 losses in a row, and we've seen Bellator get rid of a lot of SBG guys and Irish guys recently. I know there's still 11 of them on the card, but they have cut ties with another also. So and he's so young, he's only 26. Like you look at him, he looks about 40, but like
I do think the narrative of SBG fighters getting the favourable matchups are gone on this Bellator Dublin card anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
Petesy, what about yourself? Any fight in particular you're looking forward to?
I think Danny Nealon deserves a lot of credit. And look, the SBG, there definitely is, there definitely was a thing where SBG fighters were getting, a lot of SBG fighters were getting gimmies in these early Bellator fights. But you're dead right. These 2 fights at the top of the card particularly are unbelievable. But Danny Nealon's always been fighting above her grade. Like in terms of when you looked at it on paper, she was always taking on people with more experience, winning records. And now she's 4-0, and I think she's brilliant. I think she's a brilliant fighter. And like even speaking to Andy Ryan, I was at Cage Legacy. He's like, when she's coaching for Emma and things like that, when they go to the IMAFs, he said she's unbelievable. She's like a superstar, right? In terms of, if you're a kid, if you're a young girl starting off in MMA, you're looking at people like Danny, you're looking at Leah, you're looking at Sinead. And for her to go out of her own way and take all this time with these kids is just a great thing to see. I think she's a brilliant fighter, and I'm always looking forward to seeing her. And again, strength of schedule, she's 4-0. She's taking on a 7-5 fighter. Like, that's a big ask that early on in your career. Like, that's a lot of fights, a lot of experience she's going in against. So really looking forward to seeing her. I think people need to rave about her a bit more, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. Ross, what fight are you looking forward to seeing?
I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Dara Kelly fight. He imposes such pressure on his opponents, what he did in the amateur scene. It's very rare for someone to make their professional debut on such a big stage. I'm really looking forward to see how does he do under the bright lights on the big stage, see how he gets on. He was ranked number 1 amateur lightweight and featherweight in the UK and Ireland, so let's see how he gets on over in Bellator. I think he should get the win, but let's see how he does. I think it's an interesting prospect, so that's my pick.
Isn't it great to see world kickboxing champion Ilias Bouliaid actually matched with someone who has fought in MMA before? I think that's an amazing step.
It's lovely.
Amazing.
The last 2 times.
One of the fights had to be pulled by the commission. Like, it was that ridiculous. This guy's like 170 fights in kickboxing, and they're putting him in against me. Like, it was absolutely
in fairness, Pete, the last time he fought in Dublin and we were at it, his brother was there, and his brother started telling me like he's the best fighter in the world, and I was like, do you know who he's actually fighting against? His brother's a bit of a lunatic, and he actually would not leave us alone. Ballister wouldn't.
Oh, he's a legend.
Yeah, you're going to see him on Friday night, mate. So
yeah,
hopefully.
He's probably watching this now.
He's the one who hit the dislike button. But
and also, I think he was so cool.
This was actually a really great. This was a great, really enjoyable episode, and also I want to give a shout out to Sinead having a fight for the world title against Cyborg next week as well. So I actually cannot wait to see that. I'm sure everyone else can't as well. But like that sort of wraps the whole show up. We brought an hour, so like at least everyone has the week to tune in, check it out, and enjoy. Before we wrap things up, Andy, we'll give you a few words. Pete, to yourself, Ross. We'll leave you for last, but
I just wanted to give one more shout out as well to Kieran Clark. Like that, Kieran Clark is kind of, as Petesy was saying about Danny Nealon, I think all of those points can be made about Kieran Clark as well. This is a guy that travels an hour and a half or 3 hours every single day to get from Drogheda to SPG Ireland, and he's done so for years since he was a teenager. He had a very spotty amateur record where he had almost as many losses as wins, and since going pro, he's just looked so well rounded. Like everything is airtight. If you looked at his first fight was a post-lim fight against George Courtney, and he looked so methodical and clean. He had that recent win over John and Doy on his comeback, and Petesy will be able to tell you much more about him than I would, but like, he was highly touted in the Conor McGregor Cage Warriors era. So I just think he's one to watch. Like, he's not the flashiest fighter, but he's gritty, he's tough, and he's just winning emphatically. Well, not emphatically, but he's dominating in his fights thus far. So one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And he's a huge fan base in Drogheda. I've seen him fight in Drogheda before, and it was fucking wild. It was mental. Like, it was proper regional MMA shit where you're like, I might die here. These people are getting way too excited about this kid. And he's been hyped since he's a very young teenager, There's same kind of, we'd already had Gallagher at that stage, but Clark was being talked about in the same regard. Like, this guy is going to be unbelievable. And he was so young fighting amateur, So, yeah. He's brilliant. Yeah. I just can't wait for you to stay energized. I'm getting excited.
It is going to be an epic card. Also, shout out to Stephen Costello, who was also on the card, and then shout out to Takamandu, who's going over to Africa to fight in EFC 90. I think Eno Neal broke the news on that, so shout out to Eno.
Yeah. All right, Andy, you can take the floor, bud. Let the people know what the crack is with you.
Where can we all get you?
Do I get to say it?
Yeah,
but we're on qualify. We're on audio as well. Like,
stay energized.
No, not
tell
yet.
people to check you out, man.
Tell people where to find you.
Epic.
You can find me.
I'm really jealous that he got to say it though. Can we all say in unison at the end?
Yeah, we will, Petesy.
Andy Stevenson MMA on Instagram, whatever. Yeah, don't find
okay.
We'll tag him.
Petesy, tell the people where to check you out.
You can check me out in Blanchardstown every day. Every day I'm here, but online at Petesy Carroll, Petesy. The Americans are having real trouble with that fucking name.
Yeah.
It's Petesey. E is at the end and stuff. Come on, it's easy. Jesus Christ.
Okay, Ross.
So, guys, if you have enjoyed the show, which I'm sure you have, 4 absolute stellar performances here from the lads, myself included. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like. Make sure to share. Make sure to leave a comment below telling you who was your favourite of the 4 panelists tonight. And as always, stay energized. Yes!
Energized show, up the Irish. Been sussing you guys a couple of times. I've seen a couple of clips. I think you've done some interviews with Dylan Moran and that I saw. So keep going, keep up the good work, guys.